It is finally time for the last Backrooms video, at least for now. I will probably make more Backrooms related stuff in the future, like a movie review, but for now, this will be my last one. I will make many assumptions into what the motivations of characters and plot holes will be, so do note that I will make a few things up for convenience sake. In 1931, Ivan Beck is born to parents Doris and Antonin Beck in the city of Karlovy Vary, Czechoslovakia. Ivan grows up being very into science and plants and meets artist George Brem. Ivan then immigrates to California in America. Sometime later, Ivan finds a tape of a girl exploring a huge office building, and mysterious green light teleports the tape out of the building at the end. Because of all the unnatural occurrences in the building, Ivan concludes that it must be some sort of alternate dimension, and Ivan then proceeds to spend the rest of his life investigating the space. In 1972, he builds the first prototype as to what will be known as the Low Proximity Magnetic Distortion System. He activates the system right as the 1972 solar flares occur, and although it succeeds, it causes him to gain memory loss and blindness in his right eye. And for the cover of Volume 3 of the Backrooms OST, Ivan's face is covered by a photo of said solar flares. Because of this activation, Ivan permanently scars the world, causing an initial link between Standard and this other dimension. Ivan then gets approached by one Philip R. Heyman, and the two of them build a more stable prototype of the system, and it successfully teleports a small marble into the other dimension. Over the course of the next 7 years, Ivan and Philip construct the Async research facility with the guidance of Lawrence Altman. Yes, I know that's not his kind of name, but we don't have any other name, so I may as well just use it. The company focuses on Project KV-31, which is the project to build a portal, known as the Threshold, to the other dimension using electromagnetism. After 5 failed tests, Async successfully opens up the portal on the date of October 17th, but not with unintended consequences. The sheer amount of force used to open the threshold causes the Loma Prieta earthquake, affecting numerous disruptions across households. Some TVs even began displaying advertisements from far further in the future. The scientists begin exploring this new dimension of empty office rooms, and swiftly begin to experiment on the environment surrounding them. They take down one of the ceiling tiles in the light ballast, and experiments done on them show that they were built for possibly indefinite use. Because of the office complex-like nature of the space, Async dubs the place the Complex. Because of the huge rift between realities caused by Project KV-31, people begin falling into the complex and missing persons cases go up, mainly because of null zones. Null zones are essentially miniature versions of the threshold that pop up all over the world, letting people fall into the complex with no rhyme or reason, and they blend in right with the solid ground, so you never know if you're about to fall in. A sideways one even pops up in the basement of a furniture store, and the owner begins exploring the complex to understand what the place is. During an expedition into the complex, a crew discovers a corpse covered in fungus-like material. As this corpse was not there the last time they explored this room, Ivan decides to bring the corpse into analysis. He hires an amateur doctor who doesn't quite understand the specimen, so Ivan simply lets him go and continues the project. The doctor does say, however, that the bacteria is a strain of hay bacillus. On the day of the 29th of February, 1990, a team is sent out into the complex to explore a new chunk of it. It is worth noting that 1990 was not a leap year, so that means that the threshold screwed up reality so bad it even made leap years wrong. Anyways, during the expedition, the team's cameraman, Peter Tench, hears a crowd coming from a nearby crevice in the wall. He begins to explore it, but as he gets closer, his team mysteriously disappears. Peter runs around the complex, hoping to find the threshold, and although he does find it, he finds it in some sort of strange outpost-like building, and after going inside, the alarms go off, causing Peter to panic until something happens. To his team, Peter just disappeared without a trace. They go back to the threshold and conduct a recovery crew to find him, but with no luck. Since the project is so under wraps, Async must make a more acceptable death for the Tench family to move on, so they fake a car crash and hold a funeral for someone who, in reality, just vanished. With the new knowledge that employees can go missing in the complex out of nowhere, Async begins building an outpost right outside the threshold, and sets up security cameras around the complex to make sure nothing odd happens. At 3:53 in the morning, on the day 6th of March, a security camera successfully picks up footage of some sort of being creeping around the corner of a pillar, showing Async that there is much more to the complex than they think. On the 6th of May, a team of 4 is sent out into the complex to conduct a new exploration on a set of rooms known as the 14th Division. After walking down it, they encounter a room with pits on the floor, known as Room 14D. They notice a door on the other side of the pits, and one of the employees, whose name is Mark Bloom, decides to cross the pits as to see what's on the other side of the door. What he finds is the complex building itself right in front of his eyes. The walls shift and green cracks flood the walls. Mark pushes the team's cameraman, whose name is Marvin Lay, to cross the gaps to capture what is happening. Marvin, unfortunately, falls down one of the pits, however, and gets stuck down there, and the team needs to attach a briefcase to pull him back up because the deep is too whole. However, Marvin then hears a voice calling for someone.
What was that?
Marvin follows the voice, and despite his team's efforts to make him come back, he heads out into a huge outdoor neighborhood coated in red light. He follows the voice into a house with clear signs of a human living there. What he finds, however, was anything but.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Marvin?
That's not a person.
What is it?
That is not a fucking person!
Right, Marvin, talk to me. What do you see?
This right here is Async's first-hand confirmation there is indeed intelligent life out there in the complex. Luckily, Marvin does run away in time, and they drop the tether down the hole, and Marvin climbs back up. The crew returns to the threshold and is meted by one Anthony Dawkins. Marvin passes the camera footage to Anthony, and then he passes it to analysis. 2 scientists watch the footage, and Async ultimately decides to board up 14th Division, as they have a presentation with their government in a few days, and they cannot risk anything going wrong. On the 8th of May, the Department of Energy comes over to Async, and they present their plans for the complex. Async proposes the idea that the complex could be used for residential services and housing. They guide the secretary, James Watkins, through the complex, and they ultimately decide to give Async the proper funding required to continue the project. However, right after the presentation finishes, as they are discussing where to go from here, Peter Tench suddenly appears in the outpost they built. Async gets shut by this. To them, he just disappeared out of nowhere. They bring him in and tell him what happened during the 2 months he was gone. They also take the footage he recorded and ultimately determined that the part with the blue light was the moment he was instantaneously teleported 2 months forward in time. Async explains to Peter that they needed to fake his death as to keep the project under wraps. Peter recognized this and was willing to cooperate with Async as to attempt to reintegrate him into society. However, keeping him trapped in Async was not very good for his mental health, and right as Peter was about to move into an above-ground residence, Peter escapes Async and runs back into the complex. Async has got other things to deal with, however, so they take down the 14th Division barricade and drive a rover down to 14D to make sure the lifeform is no longer there. Once they confirm it's safe, they get some employees to build a bridge across the pits, as to see what was on the other side of the door. In the meanwhile, a team of 3 explore room 14C, which is a big dark room with one section that looks more like an art gallery. The 3 employees are Mark Bloom, the same person who saw what was on the other side of the door, Randall Tashi, and Marvin Lay. They begin venturing into the dark room and notice that some of the ceiling tiles have been knocked down. Randall then finds a map of 14th Division on the wall, and they attempt to call in Standard to notify them of this, but the team have ultimately gone too far out and the signal gets a bit shoddy. As they walk back, however, Peter Tench out of nowhere ambushes the team and tells them all that Async made everyone think he's dead. And after Mark Bloom calls in the other team, Peter shoots Mark and makes his great escape. He runs down 14th Division through the threshold and makes it to the freight elevator in Async. He begins running out of Async, his current whereabouts unknown. Async holds a meeting with its employees to tell them about the whole incident with Peter Tench and how they claim he just simply died to a rock. Many employees begin getting skeptical of what the company would do next, and George convinces Marvin to take a break off of the project. And in the meantime, George records the first footage of room 14E. During this, Peter Tench uses a phone to call his family's house and tells them about what Async has done, putting Async in grave danger. So, that is it for now. The finale of my Backrooms analysis series. Yay! I will probably make some more content on Backrooms later on, probably for the movie and such. But for now, it's time for me to move on to other things. I do have quite a few ideas on what videos to make next, so do keep your eye out for me. Bye bye!